What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Finding Hope podcast. I'm so excited you're here, and today is extra special because I have a professional dancer and actress. She's trained under the Edge Performing Arts Center Scholarship Program at 18 years old, which is crazy, and has gone on to appear in a number of films, TV, and music videos. She's actually worked for Eminem, One Republic, Haley Seinfeld, and she was in Netflix The Prom. Not to mention, I actually went and saw this movie in theaters, Don't Worry, Darling. And she is here as a guest, and also we're actually roommates.
Yes, you are. Blushing.
So, needless to say, I have a really cool roommate.
I also have a very cool roommate, obviously.
But I'm so excited because I've been wanting to have Monroe on the podcast for a bit, and it kind of sprung out of nowhere. Somebody asked, they're like, has she been on yet? And I was like, oh my gosh, thanks for the reminder. We got to get this going. So I'm so happy. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. I mean, you know where I live. She tracked me down, you guys.
Yeah.
It wasn't that hard. But I will say Kayla is a very busy bee. So, sometimes we're ships in the night. But I'm so excited. I'm, kind of nervous. And I'm in my own home. So, it's crazy.
I know. It's so wild. Well, I literally want to have Monroe on because obviously she's very accomplished. She has done so much to make a name for herself, to create a life for herself out here, and being able to live with her, and we've lived together 2 years now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So actually over 2 years, which is crazy. But I feel like it's given me a really cool look into her life and how she makes all these things happen, because I feel like even from the time that we moved in together 2 years ago, so much has happened in her life since, in my life since. It's been crazy. So what I'm so excited for us to focus on is we're going to talk about self-discipline, knowing when to say no, and how you can change and grow as a person while maintaining friendships and knowing what friendships maybe to kind of walk away from.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into all these topics because these are things that Kayla and I kind of talk about regularly, but we haven't really deep dived into them. But it's decisions that we're having to make every day with our careers. So it's and in our relationships and just life as a 20-year-old. We're actually reading the same book right now.
We are.
It's a defining decade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to that book.
That one has been great. Monroe read it first, and I'm trailing behind, but loving it.
Yes.
With these topics, I feel like within the last 2 years, we've really grown in them. And so I'm excited to discuss it because I think where we may have started with the self-discipline, with knowing when to say no, with navigating friendships when you're trying to grow as a person, it's very different than what it is now in our lives. And there's new things that maybe are a challenge for us now that weren't 2 years ago.
It's all a work in progress. It's never complete.
So Monroe,
yes,
she is one of the most self-disciplined humans, you guys. Literally, I swear almost every single day, and we have 2 stories in our place, and she resides below. And every single day, I hear her doing her workouts, doing her ballet class for herself. She is on her walk. She is that is actually one of the main things I noticed when I first moved in, is just how disciplined you are. Not in being athletic, but in your career, in everything. You really are so disciplined at the things that you want to improve in your life. Or just maintain even. That has blown my mind. So where do you feel that pushed you to do?
Yeah, or where did it come from?
Yeah.
Kind of. I think just really wanting it, and I've always been very, even since kindergarten, just very, eager to learn and eager to, achieve. And just figuring out, that you have to get from A to B, you have to, put in some blood, sweat, and tears. So just kind of, I heard once, it was, I think it was, dreams are a like a drop of inspiration with a gallon of perspiration. And I took that quote to heart quite literally. And so I just try and do like a little something every day that can help me like achieve what I want. With that said, it comes with like knowing what you want. So if you have like a vision of what you want, then like it doesn't feel like work really. But yeah, you have to really want it also, because like daily discipline can get pretty mundane if you're not enjoying the things you're doing. I think you really have to enjoy the process. And when it stops being fun, stop doing it. Because I'm like, I've come to the point where starting to let go of things when it's not fun. If it's not fun, what's the point? So
yeah. And I think just with your discipline, because we met, I think the same year we both moved out to California, which was over 6 years ago. So crazy.
That's crazy.
But we met at an audition, and it was so brief and quick. But in that like 2-minute interaction that we had when we first met, I remember immediately being blown away by her discipline then, because we were at this audition and she had already, like, we were both so new to LA, and I was kind of over here like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? What's going on? And Monroe was already just like grabbing it like by the reins and taking charge. And at this audition, she was like running from a different one, going to another one, and self-submitting left and right, and just being like, you know what, I'm here and I'm gonna figure it out. And I think almost that uncomfortability of like, shoot, I gotta get my stuff together. You did. Like that pushed you.
I think especially when you're young and like, say you're moving out to LA for the first time, you really have to hustle. And like we both, like you as well. Kayla's the same exact story. Just like, you want to do all the things so you know what you like and you don't like, and just try everything, because you never know what's gonna stick. Like my goal was to be a backup dancer. I was like, I want to go on tour with Beyonce, which like obviously that would still kind of be amazing, but my goals have changed so much just by like falling into acting and just falling in love with it. So that you just gotta try everything, and like you only get one chance to do it, so just
when you, like you said, and when you like choose something, you like do it full-heartedly. Yes. I think that's the biggest thing with discipline, and what I've been learning from a lot of the books that I've been reading lately is if you're going to make a choice, actually commit. Because if you half commit to it, or if you half commit to your New Year's resolutions, to eating healthy, to working out, like it doesn't work. And I think both of us living together have seen that with one another. Like we both live almost the exact same day every single day. There's differences, but we are both, our groceries are the same every single week.
We get the same things. Like I can tell Kayla got groceries ordered the other day, and I was like, oh, these are for sure Kayla's, like at our front door. It was like her same like probiotic cottage cheese. I could go on. But literally, it's routine, and it's I think structure is important, especially as a freelancer.
Yeah.
But what you said before about going 100% all in, my mom used to say, trying is lying. So like, oh, this year my New Year's resolution is to try to get healthier. No. Like even Kayla with this podcast, a lot of people say like, oh, I want to do a podcast. Kayla's literally been so consistent and so good, like even hiring people to help her out. It's like really inspiring because she went all in. Which is what you have to do to like, and stick it out, because success may not come in the first week or month or year or 5 years. Or 10 years, but if you stick it out, odds are
you'll do pretty well.
Yeah,
it might take some time.
Even if you're not that talented, I hate to say it, it'll probably work out for you.
It probably will. No, I know. I feel like that kind of gives me motivation, because I think about that a lot of like, you know, I do have talent. Like I do think that about myself, and even if I didn't, like I know and see so many people that go so far in life because they are disciplined, and they keep showing up. They literally keep showing up.
Consistency. It's so like, this quote is said over and over, and it sounds so like, oh my God. But consistency is key. Your daily routine, like your habits form your person, and then they form your life. And it's like the little tiny choices you make every day, I think really are important.
And I think too, like last note on the discipline and the consistency is something I've noticed in my life is when there are new goals that you introduce into your life or new dreams you have, new things, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to be so excited. Like, I'm going to be so disciplined. I'm going to be so consistent with it, on and on and on. And I think the newness can create a lot of momentum, which is great. But I think where you really see those results is in the things that aren't as fun. They're not as exciting. And they are things that they're not just for a month or 2 months or a year that you do, but they're things that you actually do every single day for your life. And that is where I've noticed just the most amount of, I guess, like reward is because in the things that I choose to be super disciplined in and consistent in my life, it almost gives me like, okay, these are little areas in my life that I can control and I can do well. And I've learned how to steward this area in my life really well. So that way, when I take on new things, I have that like tenacity and that strength I've built up from already being able to be disciplined and consistent in the small areas in my life.
It's a confidence thing. I don't know if you've gotten to this part in the book, but it's like building identity capital so that you're kind of an expert in your field, and like just having that confidence. I think for me, what made acting so easy was training in dance for over 15 years and just feeling like I had an authority on that. Because if you don't have an authority after 15 years, you never will. And I told myself that. I was like, I'm an expert in this. So it made transitioning to other areas easier because I did feel worthy to like qualified, I guess. Because I think imposter syndrome is a big thing, especially when you're in LA. You're like, oh my God, everyone's so like doing all the things. But you just have to come in with confidence and like fall forward instead of like have plan A and just fall forward.
Yeah, for sure. And with the confidence, I remember the first year I lived out here, I did this training course with Galen Hooks. If you're a dancer, you'll know who she is.
Galen Hooks. She's amazing. I recently just started taking from her this year, and I'm like,
amazing. She's amazing. But she talked so much about confidence. And I was like, oh yeah, I have that. And I would go into these auditions being like, yeah, I'm confident. Yeah, I'm confident. And looking back, I really wasn't. And I realized there is such a difference of, okay, I'm going to step into this situation, I'm going to be confident in it, versus stepping into every single thing you do every single day being confident in it. And like I would train, I would do all of these things, and I never felt like, oh, I'm doing a good job at this. I need to do more. And then I'd step into an audition, I'd be like, I'm great. Whereas I wasn't actually believing that about myself when no one else was watching me. So I like, just in life outside of dance, something I've really learned is whether I'm posting a story or whether I'm just out and about, like my confidence doesn't change no matter if there's a camera on me, if there's people around me, no matter what. I am like, I know down to my core, I believe in myself.
That's something I admire so much about Kayla is she is so confident, and I don't even know if, like, yes, of course confidence, but I think it's more like self-assured, and she can film, and like she's fearless because she's so secure in herself, which is amazing. And like I think that does come with time, like just doing it and knowing yourself and not being afraid of judgment. Honestly, I think the most freeing thing that has happened probably for both of us in the past like 7 years since moving out to LA is just not caring what other people think is so freeing. And it once you get past that, like sky's the limit.
It honestly is. And I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of where I'm at now and being self-assured, being confident, and living in that way for a couple years now or a consistent amount of time, I was taken down way further than I thought I ever would be. And like I've always had a confidence and a belief in myself, but I think being in a place where, you're hearing so many opinions, you're getting told why people don't want to hire you left and right, on and on, with friends, with relationships, like everyone's figuring out life themselves. And I know I've hurt people with my words. I know I've hurt people with my actions. I probably didn't even know that I was doing it, but we're all trying our best and figuring things out, and knowing how to just let that wash right off of you. Like, it really took, I think, me being beaten down to be like, oh my gosh, what am I doing down here? Like, absolutely not. No more of this. I'm done. Kind of that all-in mindset. I had an all-in of like, oh, I'm actually not going to let anyone else like tell me what I should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that came with not letting my worth coming from external validation.
Yeah.
Just like being like, okay, like it's self-love. I was like, as overused as that word is, self-love, really, as soon as you do, like, you're okay to be with yourself. I think quarantine really helped me with that. I was okay to be alone and not, I was such a busybody, sometimes to my own detriment. And like, when you're able to be with yourself, you learn to like really check in and love yourself. And then you're less reliant. Like, I feel like I lived off of, oh, booking this, booking that. But now I'm like, I could be happy if I never booked another film. Obviously that would kind of suck.
That would suck.
but it wouldn't affect my self-worth or how I viewed myself. And I think that was how it was for me starting out, especially as a dancer. Like, it's tough, and you literally have to not care in order to not be like bogged down by it, because there's 1,000 no's and maybe a yes in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Exactly.
So.
Such a good point. I feel like, too, that's perfect into trying to figure out how to say no to things that you've outgrown and identifying when you have outgrown them, because I think it can be so hard. And Monroe, she's blown me away.
So hard.
It's
so hard.
I know it is so hard for you. And one of the biggest things that like I was shocked by is a few months ago, kind of a storm hit you. And I feel like so many things just went wrong.
Oh my God,
in your life. And I shouldn't say wrong, but
no,
it
was wrong. A lot went wrong, like within 1 month, like at the end of 2023.
A lot went wrong. Like, there was just accidents, sickness, unexpected, like, financial things that came up in her life.
Crazy.
And it just felt like this storm. And she was reading the book that I'm reading now during it. But something I was so blown away by is how she handled it. And then during it, even like she had more things to take on than she had, I think, in the time that I had lived with her. Like, everything just hit at once. And I remember you saying, like, I think I kind of needed all that to finally say no to these things. And
it was the universe telling me, sit down and be with yourself for 2 weeks. Okay, full disclosure, I got COVID. I got in a car accident. I, like, really expensive, a lot of expensive car troubles. And so I literally had to sit alone in the apartment for like a week and be like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm saying yes to too many things and I'm wearing myself down, and for what? Like, are these things serving me? And then I read that book. It was actually Kayla's book, and it was just on her bookshelf. So that was like a weird thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, she made so many really hard decisions after that of saying no to a lot of things that were either safe, comfortable, or had served her at one point in time. But it kind of took stepping back to see, is this still serving me? And I think I noticed in the book that I'm reading now, it talks a lot about the capital and building your capital for where you want to go. And sometimes it's easy to stay at the retail job. It's easy to stay at the coffee shop job. And instead of taking some random position somewhere where you feel really underqualified, but in reality, like, what is that actually building for you? And most of the time it's nothing. Like, it's good for the moment, but it's not playing into your future.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, it's scary as humans. We don't like to go out of our comfort zone because it's scary. It's like, it's unknown and it's not like our routine. Say you have a coffee shop job. It's nice. You wake up at 6 a.m. every day. You know it's a steady income. It's safe. But is it challenging you? And it like, say you're in your mid-20s. By the time you're 35 and you're like, okay, I want to be a movie star. Where is that, like...
Yeah.
Where's that identity capital? Have you been training? Have you, like, you really do have to leap into the unknown to get the payoff. And yeah, going out of your comfort zone is really hard, but I think it's key because we love being comfortable as humans. We like
love
staying.
It. And when there's a paycheck tied to it, it is
oh my gosh,
so hard.
Money is hard to say no to too. It's like the little devil on your shoulder and the angel. This year have had to say no to some things where I think a couple years ago I would have said yes in an instant. And I always envied, my older sister Tess is really good at saying no to things. And she was like, why would you say yes to that? And I'm like, oh, because I don't want to hurt their feelings and I think she's older than me, and I think a lot of that comes with age. You decide what your priorities are. And yeah, it's hard saying no to things, especially when you're young and you want to try all the things. And I do think it's important to try things, but there's also a balance between not being a people pleaser and doing things just for money.
Yeah, and with being able to say no, what has helped me so much is I listened to a podcast. Maybe
you're so good with it too. I remember I'm so inspired because I was I remember telling you about stuff and you were like, oh no, I don't do that. And I was like, wow, I love that you know that you won't do it's such a weird hurdle to cross.
It's hard. And what really did it for me though was I listened to this podcast and the guy said what's your deserve it factor, essentially? And why do you deserve these things? And what that you want. And so I'll use myself, for example. Let's say I want to have a super successful podcast. So I would kind of break that down into, well, what makes me deserve that? Am I being consistent? Am I talking about things I care about? Am I XYZ? Or am I doing the bare minimum, getting by, saying yes to a million other things, and hoping that I still end up getting the life that I want?
It's relying on outside.
It's relying on outsides. And it kind of switched it for me because I was and same with I feel like a more relatable one is just whether you want to build strength or lose weight, whatever that is. If you don't make massive changes, know when to say no, know the things to say yes to, you're going to look and feel the same way that you do right now. And it literally takes that time, the consistency to change the way you look and feel with the diet, the fitness, everything else that's added to that. And if I do nothing right now to change what I'm currently doing, or I make minimal changes, I really shouldn't deserve 12 packs of abs. I shouldn't deserve to be a fitness icon because I haven't put in the work. And so
that's a big mindset in LA. A lot of people think it's going to be an overnight success, just wishing on an outside someone to Mr. Warbucks to swoop in and so obviously there are cases that, but usually if you look back at a lot of people's history, they've been putting in the work and it feels more rewarding that way.
It feels so much more rewarding. So with the deserve it factor, it's helped me say no in the sense that when there are things that come up that, that might be easy money or that might really mentally exhaust me, but I know I can do it. There's a big difference for me of, I know, I can do those things, but is that playing into the deserve it factor? Is that actually getting me where I want to go? Is me spending my time over here doing something that drains me? Is that taking away from me actually putting in the work in other areas in my career and life that I want? And so it is still so hard. There are so many things that come up that I'm like, yes.
Temptations all the time. I will say just LA in general is full of distractions, and it's so easy to be like, oh, maybe I'll go down this road. There's so many temptations in LA. It's insane. I think the hardest part of succeeding in this town is not getting distracted.
Literally.
I think that is the key. Just hone in. Obviously have fun. Live a normal life. Don't be
live, laugh, love.
Nazi. Yeah,
But yeah, and I completely agree. I think the distraction thing is huge. And another aspect that the book has talked about is if you're in your mid-20s or you're a teenager in that stage of life, maybe you're in your 30s or 40s, but it can feel like, oh, the world is my oyster, which it is. I'm not saying it isn't. But it can almost get overwhelming with distractions of oh, well, maybe I want to be a movie star. Maybe I want to be a lawyer. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I'm this sort of an influencer. Maybe I focus on rom-com in my acting. Maybe I do this. And there's so many choices. And then that's where it's which one do I chase? And so I think kind of knowing the things to say no to, that comes from knowing yourself.
Yes, spending time with
yourself. And not just in a like, oh, I'm gonna do all this self-help book work. Sometimes like I've gotten to know myself so much just by learning what I enjoy. Like some of my favorite things have just been being at the beach with friends at sunset, and it creates so much creativity in me, or it fills my soul so much in other ways, socially, this or that. And then it gives me the chance to look inward and see, oh, well, what things about my life do I really enjoy? What things can I just get lost in that hours can go by and like I look up and I totally forgot the time. Like, what are those things in your life? And then that helps me to be like, oh, okay, I've outgrown these things. Like I can start saying no to these things because I actually don't feel that way with them. It actually feels like the hours go on and on and on and on forever when I'm trying to do those things.
A good test is, what are things that make you forget what time it is? And what are things that make you not look at your phone? Like forget to look at your phone. Like my best times I've ever had, my screen time has been like 2 hours a day or something small like that, because I'm just so in it. Like that's like whenever I'm filming a movie, I'm just so in it and I'm never on my phone, and it's the best. It's the best. And so that's a great test. Or if you're at dinner with friends and you forget your phone, you're like, oh, I don't even know where my phone is, because you're so present. It's like the things that light you up. Oh, also, you don't need any kind of caffeine because you're high on life. Like if something excites you, it'll wake you up in the morning better than any Nespresso would, because I think that's a good way to test if you love something, is if it wakes you up in the morning.
I love that. Yeah. That's so cool. No, I agree. I think that's awesome. And with learning when to say no, like that could be work stuff. It could be pressures your family puts on you. It could be within friends. And obviously that's going to look different based on what aspect in your life you feel like you need to give attention to in that way. But I think kind of back to the discipline and the confidence, like once you make a choice and you're all in, really stick to that. And don't let your family say things that it's going to distract you and make you say yes to things that you usually would have previously said no to. And same with friends. Like if you've made the decision like, okay, you know what, I know this friend group's toxic, I'm going to start distancing myself. When the temptation comes to go back and you have nothing else going on, go back to that, the discipline, the consistency, and try to really hold on to those things to be able to say no and focus on the why behind it. Like why did you need to distance in the first place? Why did you make the career change?
Or why am I going to them now? Is it like, why am I going to this object or thing now? Is it money? Is it loneliness? Like just kind of check in with yourself. It all comes with self-awareness, I think, for sure.
And you can be aware of it too, and it can still be really hard. And I know like there's been seasons in my life where I know, okay, I should separate myself from these people, from these things. And it's easy and fine until I do get lonely or I get bored. And because I'm such an extrovert. And so I thrive with people. And so being able to say no to those things and just sit in the loneliness, replace like those temptations with unpleasant emotions, that is hard. Like that's not easy. And I do know that. And so I just want to encourage you, because I know it can feel like, oh great, let me just say no to the temptations. But I do want to bring light to the fact that no, like it can be really hard to say no, and I understand that. And it can be uncomfortable. It's probably not going to be filled with all these great emotions, because those wouldn't be temptations for you if they didn't come with a trade-off. And so just when you do those things, be so proud of yourself and try to remember and celebrate it. Like genuinely celebrate yourself for saying no to whatever that is. Either get yourself a coffee, watch your favorite movie, call your friend, buy a new pair of tops. I don't know, but like have a reward for yourself every time you actually follow what you set out to do.
I like that because it is a strength. And I always associated saying no with laziness or like weakness. I don't know why. And now my like mindset has shifted because it's a strength. It's so powerful, guys. It feels so good once you actually do it. It's freeing. It's kind of like not caring what other people think, and in a way it is, because you're not doing things for other people, and it means you're in touch with yourself because you know what you do want to do and you don't want to do. And that goes with friendships as well. Like, I feel like my friends have changed so much over the years, not just geographically, but also I have way less friends, but they're more meaningful relationships. I've stopped trying to spread myself too thin with like surface level friendships, and it's just about valuing your time and your energy, because some friends you leave coffee with them and you feel drained, and then other times you're like a buzz. Like the same thing with what lights you up in the morning. Like a friend can light you up. And yeah, just follow that feeling. Our body knows, I think, what's good for us.
It does. It totally does. Yeah, follow the buzz. I love that. And that's so true. I feel like there are certain people in my life where every single time I'm done with the walk, I'm done getting coffee, and I know you have this as well, that we come back and we're just like bursting. Yes. We're like, oh, I'm filled with energy. I'm like so ready to take on the day. And sometimes that's in newer friendships. Sometimes that is in older friendships. But I think that brings us to kind of knowing, how do you actually grow and change into different versions of yourself while keeping the same friends, and then also saying goodbye to others? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like I've really learned as I've gotten older. I know in high school, everyone would always tell me, oh yeah, I mean, it's normal. Like eventually you guys are just going to like lose touch or grow apart. And I was determined for that never to happen. I was like, no, we're always going to be besties, on and on. And then the older I've gotten, I've kind of realized it's not bad to grow apart. Nah. It's just like we're all growing and changing as humans. And sometimes it's beautiful when I found the friends that I'm able to do that with. But there's nothing wrong when you can't do that with people.
Yes. I think if it feels like you're swimming upriver, this goes for friendships, boyfriends, then don't swim. Like, just roll with the tide, because if it's a good friendship, you'll find each other again. You'll see each other maybe a year later, and it'll feel like you never had any time apart if the connection's strong. And it's okay to grow apart. Like, I think you can have different friends for different phases of your life. It's just like you outgrow your favorite t-shirt. Like,
yeah, and I always say,
not that people are items, guys.
No, not at all. But yeah, no, I literally, and I something that's helped me a lot is I've kind of looked at my life and I've been like, okay, if I were to meet the same friends that I've had, whether that was in high school, in middle school, 2 years ago, now, it doesn't matter. But I'll kind of do this test with myself of, if I were to meet these people right here, right now, in this stage of my life, would I pursue a friendship with them? Would I actually want to put the work in with them?
That's good.
And I'm kind of surprised, because there's a lot of people that I thought, oh, I'll always say yes to that question. And not that I don't think you should maintain friendships, but it's really given me kind of insight into, well, if I wouldn't, why is that? And what it's come down to for me is a lot of it is kind of the things that keep me rooted in life, and what lines up more on like an emotional level,
not surface level,
not surface, and not just distance wise. Because I think when you're growing up with people or you're in college, you're all in the same place, you're doing very similar things, and so it's easy to connect because of the external things going on. And I found that in the relationships that I thrive in, I connect with the internal things going on. And whether that's like our ideas of life, whether that's how we view ourselves, whether that's how we view the world, it's all of these internal thoughts. It's not, oh, because I go to the same coffee shop every day and you're there too. It's like, no, what actually is on the inside of you, and how does that mesh?
so true. It's really interesting. I feel like I've stayed so much closer with my friends from high school that I was dancing with, because we all had very similar work ethics and goals, and I think our bond was a lot stronger, and so it maintained over the years. Like, we still get together every Christmas, every Thanksgiving. Whereas people I went to high school with that we were just in the same classes, like, I couldn't tell you where they lived now, which like is crazy. Sad, but it's like, it's not how the cookie crumbled if you're not on the same page on life.
No, and I think too, like, something I really appreciate about living with Monroe, and her friendship has really showed me how to grow and change as a person with the same people. And there's a couple people in my life that I've been able to do that with, and it's been incredible. And I think one thing that has been phenomenal with us is we have very realistic expectations, and we both give each other freedom to change and to grow. And I think a lot of it is, when it can be hard to grow in friendships, is because one person is expecting that person to be what they once were. And when there is an expectation on you, whether it's a good thing or bad thing, it puts this strain on the relationship. Whereas, like, Monroe's known me through some of the worst times of, I feel like, of me as a person, and some of the best times, I feel like, of myself.
Yeah, ditto. We're like married.
We are. We're an old married couple.
Thick and thin, and you have to evolve with people, and like,
you do. And I've really appreciated, like, when I have been, I feel like, at my worst or whatever, I never felt less than who I was by her. And I never felt like I was disappointing her. And I think that's a big thing, is because in friendships, to grow, like, there are so many times that you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna do things. And especially in, like, careers, when you're trying new things, it's like, it's normal to fail in careers, but it's also really normal to fail, like, in life.
Yeah, and no one's perfect. And you shouldn't expect that of a friend or a partner. Like, if you're looking for a perfect best friend, good luck.
Good luck.
Or a perfect boyfriend, good luck. Like, yeah, people are human, and like, even our parents. I think about that too with my parents a lot. I feel like growing up, this is like tangent, but like, we think our parents are like these perfect people, and you just have to realize that they're also human, and it makes your relationship so much easier, because we're all constantly growing, evolving. Even like your 90-year-old grandma, she's still learning things every day.
She's still learning, exactly. And yeah, so I think just with maintaining friendships, whether that's you that needs to kind of have a little reality check with yourself and be like, hey, am I actually putting all these expectations on my friends? Or like, am I holding them back in ways and not even meaning to? Or maybe you're the one that has to be like, I kind of feel a little suffocated, and I feel a lot of external pressure, and maybe when I'm around them, I don't feel like I'm able to walk in the confidence that I've been building in other areas in my life.
Especially having a lot of sisters, I feel like they do project an image on me of like me as an 11-year-old girl. I feel like a lot of my values have stayed the same, but I have changed as a person. And my sisters are my best example of just respecting one another. And that's come through some like trials and tribulations, I'll tell you that, because once you can like respect yourself, you can respect other people too, and like, just knowing that they're also human. Like, even my younger brother, like, respecting him, like, listening to him, and just like, he's not my baby brother, he's like 22 or 23.
That's so wild.
So just like, just respecting people, and that they may change, and if they change, like, they have every right to do that.
Yeah, and encouraging them in it. And I think, like, it also kind of comes down to, like, well, what is it that you love most about that person? And if it is their heart, if it is, you know, the things that are inside of them and that they're shaping in new ways, then that is a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. If it's like all the external stuff, it's because they make me laugh, it's because they're a fun time to be around, it's because they always want to like go out and socialize or things like that, like, or it's because they always gossip with me, then those things aren't probably going to carry you through the thick and thin in life.
Yeah. There's different friends for different seasons.
Different for sure. Like, I don't think you should just only have the deep friends or only have the fun friends. Like, it's important to have a mix.
Yeah, I think so too. And just being open to all kinds of friends. Like, I love meeting new people. And I feel like you'll know if you're going to be close pretty much right away. Yeah. Like, even last night, I was at a birthday party, and I started talking to this girl. And, like, for some reason, me and her were talking, like, the whole time. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, like, we click. Sometimes you just know if you click with someone. And so that's, like, what you want to invest your time in. Like, it's almost like part of your daily routine. Like, oh, say Pilates. I'm going to invest in this because it makes me feel good, and I feel energized from it. It's like the same thing with a friend. Like, yeah, like I'll do this every day.
Yeah, exactly.
4 times a week, 3 times a week,
whatever that is. Yeah, once a month. It depends on our schedules.
We'll see.
And I think too, like, knowing how to grow with friends as you age, and like bringing it back to the expectations, knowing that time is going to be so different for you guys, and when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, when you're a teenager, and even when you're at the same age in the same stage of life. Like, I know me and my friends, there are some of us that we're doing very similar things, yet our time looks entirely different. Like, my schedule might be jam-packed, their schedule might be completely empty, and vice versa. And it can fluctuate, and just being respectful of people's time as an adult, because kind of back to the whole knowing when to say no thing, to jobs, to this, to that, and being consistent. Like, your time is so valuable.
Yes, and you start to realize that as you get older, and that's why you can be pickier with things.
Yeah.
Be picky. Be picky.
Be picky. And if you need the night in, take the night in.
Yeah.
Even if that, I don't know, even if that's the one day you have to go socialize with your friends, but you know you need to stay in, just stay in. That's okay. And, like, having those realistic expectations and communicating those things, I think, is so important.
Yeah. Communication's key for friendships too, because you don't want to, like, leave everyone guessing. That's like with relationships too. Like, sometimes you have to over communicate.
And you're great with that. You over communicate. I know you're in her relationship.
I'm in a long distance relationship, and it would not work if either he or I was in a good communicator, because the anxiety would be overwhelming. I would be constantly guessing, which is a stressful way to live. So, yeah, I feel like communication gets better as you age as well.
And with the communication, checking in. I know, like, one of my really good girlfriends, we've been friends like 5 or 6 years now out here, and she is such a rock, and it's a lot of that is because we have the uncomfortable communication. And there are things that
be uncomfy.
Both of us will bring up, where it's never in an attacking way, but it's something that, like, hey, I was bothered by this, or, like, I know you didn't mean this, but I just want to let you know, like, that kind of, it didn't feel good.
I need to get better about that.
Experiencing that in a friendship with her has grown me so much as a person. And it has shown me, like, oh my gosh, actually these things are so normal, and they make your friendships deeper. And she's been great, because every single time we've had these things, and most of it is like, oh, she's had trauma from these areas, and I may say things or do things that kind of push on that, and vice versa, or things that, like, I don't believe or agree with, or things like that, and I'll bring those up. And it's been great, because every single time both of us have ever communicated on these things, we are so much closer at that. Like, I've never left those conversations feeling like I'm walking on eggshells, feeling like, oof, I like that didn't make me feel good. I kind of feel worse. I wish I never brought that up. Like, those feelings are so far from my mind. I always leave feeling like, wow, I'm even closer. I feel so much better. I got that off my chest. And both of us are on a very team mindset. And I think that's how you have to be in adult friendships, of knowing, like, you're growing, and, like, your thoughts are evolving, you're changing, you're probably realizing a lot from your childhood that you didn't know, or you're probably realizing a lot now, like, mentally and internally, that you didn't realize bothered you or, like, triggered you. And so in friendships, being open to, like, hey, we're on a team, I'm not against you at all, and you're not against me, but, like, these are things that are now being brought up in my life, and I want to work through them, I think is huge in friendships.
Definitely. Yeah, communication is key.
Communication. Well, any final thoughts on your end? I feel like we covered some bases.
Get out of your comfort zone. It's okay to say no. Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Know yourself and have fun.
Have fun. Well said. And this is coming.
Yeah.
Monroe's like a great example of all of these things because
working on it.
No, literally, like I said, living with her, I've really seen her grow and change as a human. And like when I've seen her say no to things, when I've seen her say yes to things, when I've seen her be consistent in things, or just step out of her comfort zone in fun ways, like it's crazy. Her accomplishments are just through the roof. Like she is so much, and I'm always like, oh my gosh. And one little thing for you, I feel like, is like celebrate yourself when you have these things, because it's so easy when you are disciplined, when you are consistent, when you're doing all these things. It's so hard to actually step back and be like, I'm so proud of what I just did.
Yeah, celebrate the wins. It's so hard because there's like a view of being not narcissistic, of being, I don't know, like you don't want to get too
like stagnant
or you don't want to stagnate. I think maybe that's why I don't always celebrate. I'm like, oh, I don't want to settle. Never settle was like my dance team's motto. So I think that could be part of why. But you have to celebrate because that's like the fun of it. Think of like your 10-year-old self. They'd be so proud of you. So it's like,
really celebrate all your wins and like, just be so proud of yourself for them, because that's so much momentum too to keep pushing when you have like, I did that and I did that well. And even if I know I could do better, even if I know I'm going to do better, that doesn't take away from what I've already done and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But
it's worth it.
Oh, thank you for all your wisdom. This was so fun.
Guys,
thank you for being on.
First real podcast ever.
You killed it.
I love this. We could go on literally for 4 hours.
Yeah, she'll be back for a part 2. Don't you worry.
I would love that.
She'll come on again. Love yourself. Hold on to the people that love you and are for you. And you are so much more capable than anything that you even think you can do and other people think you can do. And just being your biggest cheerleader every single day will literally be so transformative.
Love that.
But that's great. We love you guys, and we'll talk next week. Bye.